Random House Audio presents A Country for All by Jorge Ramos. This is Ozzie Rodriguez. For all undocumented immigrants, so you may have a voice, so you may cease to be invisible, so you may live without fear. That all men are created equal. Declaration of Independence, 1776. The happy and the powerful do not go into exile. Alexis de Tocqueville, Democracy in America. Little is more extraordinary than the decision to migrate. John F. Kennedy, A Nation of Immigrants. We must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Action is the only remedy to indifference, the most insidious danger of all. Elie Wiesel, Night. The time to fix our broken immigration system is now. Barack Obama, May 23, 2007, U.S. Senate. Introduction. Here is not merely a nation, but a teeming nation of nations. Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass. Now is the time. For millions of immigrants in the United States, their worst nightmare is becoming a reality. President Barack Obama has not fulfilled his promise to create an immigration bill by the end of his first year in office. In fact, the rate of deportations has increased since the Bush administration. During fiscal year 2009, 387,790 immigrants were deported or left the United States voluntarily. Even worse, anti-immigrant sentiment in this country continues to grow. Arizona has become ground zero in the immigration debate. On April 23, 2010, Governor Jan Brewer signed SB 1070, creating a law that, according to its critics, amounts to institutionalizing the practice of racial profiling, in other words, legalized racism. This law makes it a state crime for any person to be unable to produce proof of citizenship at all times, or to provide aid or transportation to an undocumented immigrant. It also authorizes the police to act as immigration agents by detaining anyone they suspect may be living in this country illegally. This is, unquestionably, the most anti-immigrant legislation in the United States. If there is any silver lining to what happened in Arizona, it is that the issue of immigration reform has been placed front and center on the national stage with a renewed sense of urgency. The possibility that similar laws might be passed in other states has reignited the immigration debate nationwide. The Arizona law reveals that discrimination is still present in our so-called post-racial society. It also means that the Republicans who favored the bill haven't learned from their electoral mistakes, and Hispanics will continue to vote against them. Any immigration reform requires presidential leadership, but there is a growing sense of grievance in the Latino community toward Obama. Many Hispanics believe that if the president had fought for immigration reform with the same determination he showed during the healthcare debate, Arizona might never have signed SB 1070 into law. President Obama has described it as misguided, and even many Republicans have expressed serious concerns about it. The fact is, SB 1070 is Arizona's response to the federal government's inaction. Both parties have said time and again that the immigration system is broken, but neither has made a substantial effort to pass a bill. In early 2010, Representative Luis Gutierrez, Democrat Illinois, and Senators Harry Reid, Democrat Nevada, Charles Schumer, Democrat New York, Bob Menendez, Democrat New Jersey, and Lindsey Graham, Republican South Carolina, presented 3 different immigration frameworks. All 3 included new enforcement rules and a path to citizenship. However, none of the frameworks had the support of the Republican Party or the votes to pass in either chamber of Congress. Politics prevailed, and nothing was done. The U.S. immigration system is unsustainable. We have waited for 2 decades for some kind of real reform, and we are still waiting. The life of Alfredo Quiñones Hinojosa is an inspiring example of what an undocumented immigrant can do in the United States when given the opportunity. Alfredo came to the United States as an undocumented immigrant in 1987. He was just 19 years old and one of 6 children. I was hopping back and forth, he told me, between Calexico in the United States and Mexicali in Mexico. All I wanted to do back then was provide food and basic living essentials to a very poor Mexican family. Alfredo crossed over the border without the aid of a coyote or guide. His family didn't have the $600 going rate to hire one at the time. His first job was as a farmhand, cultivating tomatoes, chili peppers, and cotton in Central California's San Joaquin Valley. He earned $3.35 an hour. Later, he moved to a small city where he tried his hands at other jobs, sweeping floors, shoeing horses, and soldering metal. That was where he learned English, and eventually he applied and was accepted to a local community college. His next big step was when he accepted an offer to study at the University of California at Berkeley. Alfredo dreamed of becoming a doctor, and nothing was going to stop him. His grandmother in Mexico had been a midwife and an herbal healer, and it was she who inspired his interest in medicine. "I've had many examples to follow in my life, but I know she played a very important part," he remarked. "My grandmother was an incredibly respected person, not just by her friends and family, but also in that little agricultural community that existed there on the outskirts of Mexicali in Baja California." After graduating from Berkeley, Alfredo was accepted to Harvard Medical School, where he graduated with honors. He then returned to California to complete his residency in neurosurgery at the University of California, San Francisco. "Remember," he made a point of saying, "Cesar Chavez said that one of the main problems we face is the fear of failure. We don't have to be afraid of failure, and I didn't have anything to lose." This young man, who started his working life harvesting cotton in the fields, now serves as the director of the brain tumor program at the Johns Hopkins Bayview campus. After enduring a lengthy legal process, Alfredo became an American citizen in 1997. And in Boston, during his citizenship ceremony, he came to the realization that in a short time he had achieved something that takes most others an entire generation. The person who was speaking at the ceremony began to talk about how his great-grandfather had come here from Italy, and that his grandfather had worked so hard that his father could become a teacher, and how he eventually got to Harvard, he recalled. And I realized that in less than 10 years, I had jumped over all those generations. As he told me, a jump like that might seem incredible, but it's not impossible. And what was the secret to his success? Dedication, determination, discipline, dreams, and the support of many people, including my parents especially, he replied. And one country, the United States, which offered Alfredo an opportunity he never could have found in his native Mexico. Today, Alfredo's expertise in treating spinal, brainstem, and brain tumors quite literally saves lives, every single day. He is also heavily involved in researching the origins of tumors and in developing new ways of treating brain cancer that might one day lead to a cure. "That would be my dream," he said. "Of course, many people consider that impossible, but that's also what people would have said about my life back when I was only 19 years old, and an undocumented farm worker." When considering the potential of the undocumented worker in the United States, remember Dr. Quiñones Hinojosa's hands, which have made the long journey from the fields to the operating room. "Think about it," he said to me enthusiastically. "These same hands that were once picking tomatoes and chili peppers now touch the brains of my patients." There are many people like Dr. Quiñones Hinojosa living among us, and with as much potential. But so many are not as lucky as he is. These millions continue to live in the shadows. My goal in writing this book is to make the invisible visible and to give voice to the voiceless. In moments of economic crisis such as the one we are currently experiencing, when millions of people have lost their jobs and so many can barely afford life's necessities, fighting for major reforms to current policy, including the legalization of millions of undocumented immigrants, might seem like a wishful dream, destined for failure. But this dream can't fail. It must not. More than at any other time in our nation's history, we have arrived at the perfect moment to show the world at large, as well as many of its own citizens, that the United States of America is itself an ideal, based on the promise that it is a nation of equals. Those of us living in this land of opportunity must embrace the notion that this country's greatness can be realized only if we respect who we all are and where we've all come from. For most of us, our family's roots spread well beyond this country's shores.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?